So I'm going to talk about aircraft deceleration and stopping system. Supposed to go to the next screen. Ouch. Up. Yep. So let me minimize. So it's okay. You can see this, right? So
Yes.
can you, yeah, fine. This is a second slide. Okay. So aircraft need to be stopped, very important, right? So takeoff is very easy, but landing is very, very difficult. So during our Indian LCA time, we had a 3-hour sortie. All of us were taken up in the aircraft, and just to understand, how the aircraft behaves, right? We are trying to make a control system for an aircraft, and we don't know what an aircraft actually, how it feels, right? So this was a beautiful opportunity. So we were taken up by the pilot, and he showed us the different way the aircraft behaves and all that. But the landing we never did, right? So we have taken off but never landed, and landing is so crazy, right? He does so many things. So landing is the most dangerous thing, I would say, and pilot is fully concentrated on that. So when the aircraft lands, you have to have a braking or a stopping system, or when it is taking off and it is at the highest speed possible on ground, and then there is an abort, takeoff is aborted. So halfway through the runway, you have only another half of the runway left for you to stop the aircraft. Okay, so these are the two places where this deceleration and stopping happens. So not only during landing, but takeoff also. With an aborted takeoff, you need to stop, and you need to apply the brakes and stop the aircraft. Okay. The normal way to do this is to brake the aircraft. So like any car or something, you just brake it. But brakes alone cannot, stop the aircraft. If aircraft lands and he presses the brakes, you may have a, wheels heating up, you may have a tire burst, and you will have all sorts of things that are happening. Okay. So what they normally do is they use the engines to reverse thrust. They use spoilers on the wings to reduce the, increase the drag, so reduce the speed. You may, in the Indian LCA context, we used to deploy the air brakes on ground. And then, of course, in the LCA, we had the parachute. So the parachute is deployed. So if you see most of the aircraft, the fighter aircraft, you have a parachute that is deployed. Okay, to stop this. So in the case of LCA, braking used to be done only at the end, okay, because the speed was reduced sufficiently by the parachute itself. So these are the different things that are available on not only the brakes alone, okay. So that is why I'm saying that there is a deceleration system and then there is a braking system. So therefore, we will look at the complete system on how to slow and stop the aircraft at a very desired location. That is the first what of my system, is to decelerate the aircraft and stop at a desired location. So that desired location is also very important. Where do I stop it? Okay. And brake management would be a component of it. Okay. So this project is going to be an open domain, and we will have participants from different, locations and laboratories, industries, and all that. And National Aerospace Laboratories, Bangalore, is going to support us. Okay, and all of you are going to be part of it as we go along. We will have a core team defined, and then we will have additional members. Okay. So these are the books I have taken from, and this is chapter 8, approaches and landing. So these are very good references. You don't have to take it from there. I'll put it in the repository, but just to know where I have taken it from. So these are good reads, and all these beautiful pictures that you're going to see later are from this. Okay, so this is how an aircraft basically approaches. So before we get into the landing phase, we need to know how it approaches. So what is happening is this is a small aircraft, so it's about 78 knots. So the speed is continuously reducing. As the speed reduces, the aircraft loses lift. It cannot aircraft has to counter the weight by the lift. So lift is done on the wings, and that is how it floats up. So you reduce the lift, it will start coming down. So there is a
mm,
descent rate that is defined. Okay, it should
mm,
descend at a very specific rate. If it
mm,
is too fast, it will crash, and if it is too slow, then where it lands could be, because it is moving forward also, it's not a helicopter, so it has a forward velocity, and suppose it's coming very slowly down, then it will land maybe in the middle of the runway somewhere. So the amount of runway available is also less. So ideally it should land at the at the tip of the runway. So the pilot is completely concentrating on that as he lands. Okay, and so he's reducing the speed. As he reduces speed, the lift is reducing, but then he has to maintain. So what he has to do is, there is something called as an angle of attack. Angle of attack is the angle between the wings and the wind speed. So this is just like your kite. We can go deep into each concepts of this later, but then just remember, angle of attack, if you are not into the aerospace, would be the angle between the wind and the wing, and just like a kite, so you need to have a tilt so that the kite can go up. So same thing is happening here, and they have something called as flaps behind the wing, so that basically increases the surface area of the wings so that you have more lift. So higher the surface area, you have more lift, even though the speed is less. Okay, so he's trying to juggle all this, and finally there will come a time when the aircraft actually goes into a stall, right? There is zero lift available. So that is when it just drops to the ground. But then if it is a few centimeters above the ground, you have a beautiful landing. If it is a 1 feet above the ground, you will have a charge. Okay. So this is what happens. And then because there is a forward velocity, it is going to roll. Okay. So this is also called as a flare. They call it as a flare, where, it slows down and it is about to land. Okay. So this is the same thing. So this is 15 feet height, and then this comes to 2 feet height and a 1 feet. So at this stage, you are nearly zero descent rate, and you just drop to the ground. It is also important that you drop to the ground. You may say that, okay, no, I felt a bump when I landed at Bangalore. Okay, but that
mm,
bump, it's good to have that bump. Okay, if there is water on the runway and you don't have that bump, it is quite possible that you're going to slide away. Okay, so we will see some of those things also as we go. Okay, so what are the things that can go wrong? It's very important that we know what all can go wrong. Okay, so you can have a floating during the round out. So round out or the flare is what I was describing. Okay, so you may have a floating, you have just not landed, you still have some lift. Okay, you may be less than a feet, but you are still going, a very smooth flying. The lift is still there on the wing, so it has still not landed. So this is a floating, so you may land very slowly, or you may go beyond and not land. So when you are floating and you are not able to land, and you have you know eaten up your runway length, okay, it is better to increase power and take off, rather than attempt to land somewhere and not able to brake. So these are some of the things that has to be done. Okay,
mm,
bouncing during touchdown. So you may land rather heavy, and there could be still some lift as you land. There will be still the lift, so you take off. Okay, and then you bounce again. So these things are very important when we consider the system behavior. Okay, I will tell you an example. On the Indian LCA program, we had a bounce, and because of the bounce, the landing gear, the switch did a toggle, and because of the toggle in the switch, the control system is completely automated, right, in the LCA. So it started taking off on its own, right? And the pilot had to bring down the stick very heavily, and he landed, okay? I mean, put the pressure on the wheels again, right? So these are the things that could, because we are not taking care of it, we may have some issues, okay? Similarly, you have a ballooning effect, okay? So again, it is because of the lift that is there during landing. Okay, All these are described very nicely, maybe a paragraph each in the document. You can have a look at it. Wheel barrowing is you are landing on the nose wheel. Normally what happens is you're supposed to land on the main wheels, and you are still on the main wheels. The nose wheel comes down after some time. Okay, so but suppose you land on the nose wheel, then it is just like a wheelbarrow. Okay, so you are lifting it at the back and your nose is on the ground, and then it is wobbling all over the place. Okay, that is a bad way of landing. So we have to do this. Hard landing is a bounce, a bump. Okay, the ground loop is, the interference of the ground with the aircraft. So the aircraft may be tilted on the side. So all these things can happen. Same thing is the wing rising after touchdown. You have touchdown, but there is a airflow across the wing from the one side. So one side of the wing is lifting up, the other side of the wing is coming down, and because of that the wing may touch the runway. Okay, so these things can happen. Another thing is the pressure is there on the one wheel alone, the other wheel doesn't have the pressure. Okay, so these are some of the things that happen. So can we look at it holistically at a system level, and look at the roll angle perhaps and correct for that as we touch down. Okay, so these could be some of the things that we could be perhaps providing. Okay, but to provide that we should know ourselves what are the things that are happening. So these are the bad things that can happen. Hydroplaning is the most dangerous thing. We will revisit it again. Now, hydroplaning is, you throw a stone on the lake or a water body. Have you? I mean, we would have done that as kids. Okay, so the rock, it doesn't sink. It goes on skipping, and we used to fight on how many jumps you can make the rock go. Exactly the same thing is happening here. The aircraft has landed and there is water. So you have different scenarios. One is called as a dynamic hydroplaning. The dynamic hydroplaning is because of the water between the wheel and the runway, and because of the wheel is rotating at a high speed, a wedge sort of thing is created between the runway and the wheel, and the wheels are actually not touched on the runway. Okay, that is why I'm saying the bump is better. Okay, the reverted rubber hydroplaning is the wheels have become very hot, so there is a layer of steam that is created between the wheel and the ground. Okay, and very little water is sufficient to cause this sort of a thing. Viscous hydroplaning is exactly what happens when that rock is there, flying over. So there is a viscosity there, and a thin layer of water can cause a viscous hydroplaning. So hydroplaning is basically a floating of uh, the aircraft on the runway. Wheels are there, but it is as if it is going over ice. Okay, so this is something that we may want to look at again. Okay, so these are some of the things when the aircraft lands. So you will have a relative wind direction. So there is a forward velocity, but there is a wind coming from the side, let us say. So the relative wind direction could be across the wing. So that is what I am saying, that one side of the wing could be lifted. Other thing is that there is the aircraft is not aligned with the runway. Okay, it may have landed like this. Normally they tend to land like this, but at the last instant of time, they will correct for it by giving a rudder. So if you see here, the rudder movement is there. So they will give a large rudder to correct for it and align. So ideal situation is two wheels on either side of the center line, and you bring down the nose wheel after some time. That is an ideal situation, but that doesn't happen. Okay. Similarly, this is a crabbed approach. So if you've seen the crabs move, they can move sideways, front, and all that. So this is the same approach. So you are, your velocity vector is not aligned with the nose. Okay, it is on the side, right? So that is the way, just the way your crabs move. And then this is the same thing, but the wing is rotated as it lands. So there is a roll angle associated with this. So you need to correct for this when you land. Okay, so this is with the side slip approach. Okay, this is the bouncing. So you have landed, And because of the landing, there was a nose up that happened. And because of the nose up, there was an increase in the angle of attack. And an increase in the angle of attack causes a lift force that is created. So this is the lift force that is created. So the aircraft actually bounces up. Okay. And then it reduces the angle of attack. And then because of that, it lands again. So this is the bouncing during a touchdown. This is a porpoising, it oscillates just like this porpoise, coming out of water, going back into the water and coming up. So similar to the previous one, but this has a more prolonged, duration, I would say. Okay, so this is the porpoising that can happen. This is the drifting during, touchdown. So wind is on the side. Okay. And so there is a inertia force on the side when it lands. And here also, if you see here, so wind is there. So there is possibility that the wing can hit the runway. So these are some of the things. So it is not a straightforward thing. So a lot of physics and a lot of forces that need to be controlled. In this case, what would happen is the force is on one particular wheel here. So you may have a tire burst, you may have a landing gear collapse because it is not catered for that. So these are the things that can happen when it lands. Okay. So having done that, let us look at the have half an hour. So we have the different landing gears that are there. So this is a dual wheel, and then you have this multi-wheel in the Boeing 777. You see some of the Russian aircrafts, you may have, looks like a trailer, truck. Okay. And each one of these will have its own sensors. It will have its own brake management, brake discs, and then everything is hydraulic. Okay, whole thing is hydraulic, and the hydraulic pressure is normally used to bring these wheels down. And this is uh, the what do you call the landing gear, the cover that comes up. So when the wheel go back, this locks in so that you have less of drag. Okay, so once it lands, the whole thing is opened up for you. Okay. And this is a simple hydraulic system. So you have a reservoir, you have a brake here, and brakes are basically, hydraulic cylinders, I would say. So you press on these. So if you do differential press, right, it is basically rotating, right? If you rotate it, the same thing is used for brake also. So the brake pedals and the rotating, so there could be center here. So if you, don't hard press on the brake pedals, it can be used to rotate the nose wheel and the rudder. Okay, you sit on it. They practically call it as you sit on the brakes, right? You put a lot of pressure on the brakes, then it acts like a brake. Okay, and then you have the hydraulic fluid that comes in, and it activates the brake. So this is a very simple brake management, a braking system, I would say. On ground, you will have the parking brakes. So you release your pressure on these, and there will be a lever. So you put it on so that the hydraulic pressure holds it in that location. Okay, so it's also important and part of the brake management system. Okay, the parking brake is also a part of the brake management system. Okay, a slightly complicated thing. So you do have the pilot pedals as well as the brakes, and they are moving the the pressure control here. And then you have an electronic system here, perhaps, that is controlling the hydraulic fluid. So after that, you will have some anti-skid valves here. So these anti-skid valves, releases the pressure as the brake is applied, so that it doesn't, hold the brake. Okay. So it is just like what we do in your, scooter or car. You don't press, unless there is an emergency, and so you actually are very sitting light on the brakes, and you release the pressure, you put on the brake. So that is how we manipulate. Okay, so we basically slow down, and nearing the traffic lights and all that, we slow down and then we brake. Okay, or else in the scooters also you have a sort of dusty or a lot of gravel. We don't press the brakes fully, right? So we are kind of on and off we do. Okay, so we have learned it, but now you need to ask the system to do this. Okay, so you do have these anti-skid valves here that is going to be controlled by the electronic unit that will remove the pressure. So these are the existing systems which are there, but we can think of more things. Okay, add more sensors, look at an all electric brake, perhaps anything, sky is the limit. And so this is a complete brake system. I don't know the whole thing. There are so many complicated things. I have just put it here to show you the complexity of it. Okay, so that was simple, but then this whole thing is a system on its own. Okay, this is a complete hydraulic system, a mechanical system there. So we may want to look at it in totality. Look at the different. So this would be fed by the left engine and the right engine to give you the hydraulic pressure. So you may have the left hydraulic system giving the hydraulic pressure to the left side, and then the engine, the hydraulic pump on the right engine will give you the pressure for the right side of the system. So similar things would be there. And then suppose there is an engine failure, there could be accumulator, and then you may switch over between the two systems. So you may have a system A and a system B. Okay, lot of these sensors are there. They will all be electronic sensors. Okay, and then you have a a brake management system here. All these valves are enabling you to basically control the fluid flow into your hydraulic. And then you have the final brake disc here on the individual wheels, and that is used to brake the. So the uh, the other component would be the carbon discs. So there could be multiple discs. So there are things like that. So different wheels, you may have multiple discs for individual wheel. And you may have the simple bicycle, our bike sort of disc brakes, which are there for the smaller aircraft. Okay, so all those things we may have to look at as we drill down from a top level. Okay, but this is the complexity. Anti-skid would be a major part, and I'm putting it here because anti-skid control is what NAL is also looking for. Okay, so anti-skid system is looking at basically the wheel speed. Okay, so it is not possible to immediately ascertain at the flight deck whether the wheel has stopped. So you are looking at it at a very low level. The pilot doesn't even know that. Okay, so he has just pressed the brake, and everything else happens very close to the braking location. Okay, the pilot may get an indication, so we will have to look at that also. What indications will you give it to the pilot? Okay, so these are some of the things that we need to address. Okay, how do you model those aspects of it? Okay, a skid not corrected can quickly lead to a tire blowout. Okay, and it is possible to damage the aircraft. Okay, so anti-skid is one major component of the brake management system that we will have to give back to NAL as we go along. But then their engineers are there, they are already working on the controls, so we can discuss with them, and they will do the control system. So we will see more of it. So at a very top level, you have a wheel sensor, you have a control electronic unit, and then you have the mechanical control valve. These are the three components of a anti-skid system. Okay, the anti-skid system not only detects the wheel skid, it also detects when the wheel skid is about to happen. There is a predictive thing that is involved. Okay, it automatically relieves the pressure on the brake pistons. Okay, so that the wheel starts spinning. Okay, so this is something that we will have to look at. Okay, so these are the sub components of that, and this is what is available on the the screen. Okay, in the pilots. So you have an auto brake. You may define the what sort of a braking you would like to provide, a minimum brake or a medium or a maximum. So Airbus. I think Airbus has this. Okay, and then you have this anti-skid, the left and right. Okay, and you may have the switches for it to put it on and off, and then these would be indications, okay, whether the system is working or not. So you will have different color codes for that. Along with that, you will have the landing gear system also. So this is a schematic of it. Okay, so you have transducers, and then you have a deceleration reference. The deceleration reference is coming from your the minimum, medium, or maximum, and using that, what should be the velocity, because you are actually saying that it should decelerate with so much of a so many g's, okay, or meters per second square. So there will be a velocity component. You will know how the velocity profile would be, and then you are looking at the aircraft, actual velocity. You are comparing, so you do have the comparators here, which will tell you. So this is basically an electronic thing, but you may have today similar things, but it could be a computer control. Okay, and finally, what it will do is there will be a wall driver, and that wall driver will open the wall. Okay. Other thing is, suppose the wheel is not rotating, that is immediately sensed, and it opens up. That is an emergency situation where the wheel has locked. Okay, it could be because of the hydraulic pressure, it could be because of the heat, and so wheel locks, which is the most dangerous thing that can happen. So if the wheel is not rotating, there will be a sensor for that, which immediately opens up the wall and releases the pressure, so that the wheel is now freely rotating. Okay, so this would be a anti-skid system that we will look at, and uh, this is, I have taken it from some Simulink or some paper. So this is the various things that are there. Okay, this is on how to test it. So you have the aircraft speed and the wheel speed. Okay, which is given from maybe an aircraft simulator. So this aircraft simulator, whatever is the emulator that is called, so that would be given to us by NAL. And then suppose we are perhaps designing this, we may put an electronics thing there and maybe a motor. These are all advanced things, when we get there perhaps, or some students could be taken, given this project to do it. So this is an actual system, and we may perhaps look at this and take the pressure sensor back into our system and demonstrate it. So I think this is what we may want to give to NAL. We can actually give them this sort of a thing, and they will take this, whatever we have done here, they will have their aircraft system, and they're going to test it out for us. Okay, but we have the freedom to do all these things. Okay, and then we have a completely automatic braking system for a 757. Okay, so in the 757, all you need to do is define the deceleration profile, define where you want to stop the aircraft, and you can stop the aircraft there. Okay, so another thing that needs to be done is that you need to be able to sense when you are on ground, because you don't start applying the brakes till you are on ground. So you may arm the brakes, right? And then you just arm it and leave it. As soon as the aircraft lands, it knows that there is a deceleration profile that is given to it, and it will use that and all those feedbacks that is there to slowly stop the aircraft at the desired location. I mean, this is the ultimate, I would say. I'm not sure whether NAL would want this as of now, but it doesn't stop us from going into this. So we can actually think about a fully automatic braking system and put it in the open domain for anybody to take it from there. Okay, so this is taken from an SAE document. So this basically breaks down the complete functionality. Okay, I cannot share this because this document is in my name. So we will have to look at it, maybe as PPTs. I could give you a overview of this document on one of our subsequent lectures. So you have an aircraft level function where you have the structural integrity. You have a control system in air. and that is giving you the drag and the lift and all that. So why is this important? Because we need to, land the aircraft. So that is also there. The power generation system, which will give you the battery power and the hydraulic power, and the display and all that. And of course your on ground system, so you have the control the speed, the control the direction, the extension of the landing gear and all that. You need to control the pressurization and the temperature inside the aircraft. So we will have to see whether that interacts with our landing gear system. Perhaps we will have to see all that. Okay. As we look at just the ground system alone, so you have to have provide a control on ground. So you need to provide the control the speed, and so that is why you have a decelerate the aircraft. And to decelerate the aircraft and stop, you need to have provide the primary stopping force. You need to provide the secondary stopping force. So you look at it beautifully. This is not talking about who is doing it. This is talking about just a functional breakdown of providing forces to stop in the primary and the secondary. You need to decrease the lift. Okay, you need to create a drag force to enhance the braking effectiveness. You need to remove the forward thrust. Okay, engine needs to be shut down, and you need to transfer the forces in a controlled manner so that you don't break the landing gears. Okay, it should not be abrupt, right? So you beautifully look at it, how many things are involved in stopping an aircraft. Okay. And finally, when we go down to this, we will perhaps look at this book, which goes into the lowest level of equations and the control systems and all that. We may want to look at this website also, where a lot of brake problems have been given. Okay. And this is actually what happens when we don't brake properly. So a lot of heat is generated, and we need to cool it down. Okay.